Good afternoon and welcome to the November 2020 meeting of the Finance Committee. I hope everyone's doing okay. The first item on the agenda is the transcript from the last Finance Committee meeting. That was in September, I believe, because we didn't have one in October. Can I please get a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Al. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Tracy. And all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed? That motion carries. So we'll be addressing two resolutions today. One is the Urban Health Plan, Inc.
Mr. Romsky?
Yes, sir.
Two things. I need Mike Cusack to give his legal
All right.
diatribe, and also
right.
I'm on recording. Give his legal, and then second, want to make sure that you know who's on the phone from the board other than the committee members. So Kim Ellis,
Kim will
let us
give
know
us
who's
that.
on, and then we'll go to Mike.
Terrific.
On today's call, we have Jerry Romsey, Chair, Al Carney, member, Tracy Rowley, member, and other board members on the call today. We have John Johnson, Joan Sullivan, Janice McKinney, Burl Snyder, and Wellington Chin.
Well, thank you all. I didn't realize I had such a big turnout for the exciting Finance Committee from November. So welcome, everyone. Go ahead,
Cusack,
Mike.
can you read your
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On March 7th, 2020, Governor Cuomo declared a disaster emergency in the state of New York due to the outbreak of the novel coronavirus or COVID-19, pursuant to Governor Cuomo's subsequent Executive Order 202.1 dated March 12th, 2020, as extended most recently by Executive Order 202.72. Today's meeting of the Finance Committee of the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, or DASNY, is being conducted telephonically and by video conference. Executive Order 202.1, as extended, provides in relevant part that Article 7 of the Public Officers Law, known as the Open Meetings Law, is suspended through December 3rd, 2020, to the extent necessary to permit any public body to meet and take such actions authorized by the law without permitting in public, in-person access to meetings, and authorizing such meetings to be held remotely by conference call or similar service, provided that the public has the ability to view or listen to such proceeding and that such meetings are recorded and later transcribed. At the time of the board mailing, staff did anticipate an extension of EO 202.1 to encompass today's Finance Committee meeting. For the record, I'd like to confirm that Governor Cuomo signed Executive Order 202.72 on November 3rd, 2020, continuing the suspension of the Open Meetings Law for an additional 30-day period through and including December 3rd, 2020, as I mentioned. The location of today's conference call and video conference meeting of the DASNY Finance Committee is designated as DASNY Headquarters, 515 Broadway, Albany, New York, where I and several other members of DASNY are located. Notice of this meeting has been posted in the standard locations that are publicly accessible. Notice has also been prominently posted on the DASNY.org public website. In accordance with EO 202.1 as extended and the DASNY bylaws, an audio and video recording of this meeting will be accessible from DASNY's website, www.dasny.org, not later than 2 business days after the close of this meeting. And today's proceedings will also be transcribed and posted as soon thereafter as is reasonable and practicable under the circumstances. One final note, Mr. Chairman, we'll make sure that this and the attendance appears before the adoption of the minutes in the transcript. Thank you very much.
Michael, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So should I now, I'm going to go back and do the adoption of the meeting minutes, just so.
No,
Yes.
It's fine. It's fine. We have it in the record. I'll just make sure it's ordered correctly.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike. Okay, so that gets us to the two resolutions before the committee today. First up is the Urban Health Planning, and that's going to be presented by Gerard. Gerard, if you're there, please take it away. Thank you.
Gerard, you're on mute.
Gerard, Kim just pointed out that you're on mute.
Okay, we seem to be having,
Getting off mute, but he's not on
He's
yet.
he's navigating his screen now.
got it. Okay. I think this is probably what, the 8th or 7th time we've done a Zoom on finance, and I'm looking forward to saying it's the last.
Guessing we'll have one more, Gerard.
Yeah, I think at least, Al, yeah.
Now you're on. Let me see if I can help you, Gerard.
This is the 9th time. We did 2 in May and no August.
Ah, that's right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Yep.
Yep.
I don't
Take
know
it
what
away.
happens.
No, you're good.
Okay, apologies. Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, DASNY senior staff and guests, the transaction summary and staff report provided to the members is seeking authorization for a resolution to proceed for Urban Health Plan, Inc. This will be a fixed and or variable rate transaction, tax exempt and or taxable, with maturities not to exceed 30 years. This is expected to be a private placement with Preston Hollow Capital with a not to exceed amount of $70 million. There will be 2 series of bonds, a Series 2020A and Series 2020B. The Series B bonds are for a bridge financing, which is expected to be paid down in 3 years with the proceeds of governmental grant proceeds. This is a new money transaction for a federally qualified health clinic. The purpose is to finance a CON. The proceeds of the bonds will be used for the construction of a new extension clinic and certain brownfield cleanup on a vacant land lot located at 1095 Southern Boulevard of the Bronx, New York. The new building will be a 57,000 square foot, 6-story facility that will include approximately 47,000 square feet of clinical Article 28 space, with a remainder for mechanical areas and parking garage. The security features include a mortgage on the property, a pledge of the UHP gross receipts, Medicaid lockbox, and a 1-year debt service reserve fund. The bonds will not be rated. UHP does not have an underlying rating. We are in receipt of a term sheet from Preston Hollow Capital that is aligned with the certificate of need requirements for the financing. Preston Hollow Capital Inc. has done a similar transaction with Richmond Hospital away from DASNY, and they are a QUIB. UHP is a new client. They have not issued debt previously with DASNY. We've worked closely with our colleagues at the Department of Health, resulting in a CON approval for the project. We have the DOH review and approval letter endorsing the transaction. UHP's payer mix is Medicaid heavy in the 70% range. And as an FQHC, the Medicaid reimbursement rates are enhanced, or they're a little bit higher than traditionally when servicing or paying for a FQHC. There are favorable revenue projections and debt service coverage statistics to support the cash flows for this new project. This is a well-established healthcare provider in this region with several facilities which they have successfully operated since 1974. UHP holds a 31% market share. Its competitors are Community Healthcare Network with a 19% share and Bronx Care Health Systems with a 15% share. Staff recommends that the board adopt a resolution proceed for a 30-year bond issue and an amount not to exceed $70 million on behalf of Urban Healthcare, Inc. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Gerard. Any questions or concerns?
Mr. Chairman, it's Carney. I have had a number of questions. Gerard has actually helped me to understand a lot about this deal, and Gerard, thank you very much for that. I go to table 3, total unrestricted net assets.
Yep, I was going the same place, Al. Go ahead.
50% from $42 million in 2015 to $63 million in 2019. This is precisely the kind of deal that a DASNY exists to put into place to finance. There may be risk. I'm going to assume that Gerard has satisfied himself that whatever that risk is, this community of people, of underserved folks, deserve what the Department of Health has made clear they should have. And I want to thank Tracy on the record for providing a letter that was, in my view, very thoroughly done. Tracy, thank you very much for that, and thank you and your staff for that. I fully support this and will vote in favor of doing it. I'm sorry, I will vote in favor of recommending it to the full board at tomorrow's meeting.
Thank you, Al. Tracy?
Yeah, Chairman, I'd just make a couple of comments in support of what Gerard said, and as noted in the memo. We did, hands down, I think Gerard covered it. This is a stable and institution in an underserved area, expanding access to underserved communities, and has a track record of delivering projects of similar size and scope. So I think that's important to note. Secondly, part of our diligence was looking at the structure of the financing, given it's a private placement, in the interest rates, and that was noted in the memo. That's part of our CON review, and given the market where it is now, we went back and asked for comparable interest rates. So I think that should be noted, to other transactions that are non-rated for new money, because the interest rates are in the 6.5% to 6.7%. And there's an aspect of Medicaid, given the high payer mix, that allows for Medicaid capital reimbursement of that interest expense. So we did that due diligence, and still conclude with the recommendation to go forward. Another piece of the diligence is looking at the projections that we asked for in support of this center, and that did show the ability to forecast out the expanded revenues and associated expenses with the center, showing a coverage ratio that we felt comfortable with. So the other aspect of this that's important to note is two more quick points. One is the state and the city have supported this with capital grant funding. So there is a capital restructuring financing grant that the state has given, and the city council expects to enter into a funding agreement for this new access point. So I think that also, echoes the support. We spent time understanding the structure, because this is a little, outside of what DASNY normally would finance, but I think you're right on point saying this is really providing access to capital that these facilities desperately need. So we did look at the fact that there are a second series of bonds, the B bonds, which essentially the private investor will allow to cover a bridge to the grant funding, and can amortize those over time if the grant funding is delayed or does not come in. And still, the worst case scenario, if that does occur and the grant funds do not come in, we looked at what the coverage ratio would be in that situation and got comfortable. So all those points taken together, we're supportive of this project. Of course, we require that, as before the final approval to proceed with the construction, and before the issuance of the preliminary official statement in conjunction with our procedures, we would require that the contingencies be satisfied, which means that the grant contracts, would be executed and available and in place. Yep, the funding agreement. Yep.
That's terrific. Tracy, does the fact that this is, and forgive me, I can't find it in the credit summary, but you all have described it, Gerard, you described that this is a special federally recognized program that enhances the reimbursement to, I guess, Medicare and Medicaid and Medicare, 70 and 13% respectively. Does that happen any faster because of the federal recognition? Does this organization get its money? And you may not know the answer to this, and that's fine. But is there any reason to think that in order of reimbursements, these federally enhanced reimbursements come sooner?
And Gerard, I could take that if you would like. I don't know.
I have not heard that. I don't know the answer to that, Tracy.
Yeah, and Al, just to clarify, do you mean the general, reimbursements for patient care, or are you talking about the grant funding?
I'm talking about regular reimbursement for patient care. The grant funding, I assume, is going to be in place, and it will happen expeditiously. But it's the patient reimbursement that I'm concerned about.
Right. So a federally qualified health center like Urban Health Plan, in terms of this project, they applied to HRSA, the federal government, for what's called the new access point for this extension clinic, and that is typically granted by HRSA. What then happens is and they look to the state in our CON to confirm that we've approved this, and we have, contingently as an access point to the CON, and then what makes these what you may be hinting, asking about, is that they do provide cost-based reimbursement, which is enriched, and the state does this through grant funding to the FQHC that's approved by the federal government. So there's additional reimbursement that these centers get, recognizing that they're from the state and the federal government, recognizing that they're serving a higher proportion of underinsured and uninsured
underserved people. Sure,
Yep,
of course.
yep.
I'm asking a bit of a different question. I'm asking whether or not the federal recognition and the enhanced reimbursement it comes faster. Does it happen that the federally supported reimbursement enhancement causes the care centers to be reimbursed sooner? Do we move to the front of the line because we have federal recognition?
I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Yep. It's a good question. Yeah.
All right, listen, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any more questions. I'll be quiet now.
Oh, it's okay, Al. I had a couple of just questions, and first of all, I'll echo what Al and Tracy said about the need for this this facility in that area of the Bronx. But I had a couple of questions really related to Gerard, and maybe you have the answer, maybe you don't. I'll vote yes anyway, but I'm just curious of how the brownfield piece operates. Are they taking some additional credits from that brownfield program, and is the brownfield process sort of underway? Do they have the a firm understanding of what the costs are going to be on the cleanup, etc.? That's my first question, if you have an answer for that.
I think I do. I think that the prior facility there was a dry cleaner, and I think that they've done their diligence regarding the cost and, in preparation. And I think that they have a good understanding as to, what's going to be involved as far as the cleanup goes. In conversations with UHP, I know that there was, they had purchased this land at one point and then transferred it to a subsidiary or something like that. But they fully understand the costs involved, and I think that the diligence has been done. It has not. It will take place subsequent to the financing when the construction starts. They have not done any of the remediation at this stage of the game, but that is included in this project cost.
Right. Well, if it's a dry cleaner, they probably have to do like one of these sub-slab depressurization systems active, but they cost money, but it's not like they're going to remove all the soil. They probably have a pretty decent handle on the cleanup. All right. My other question really goes back to Tracy. Tracy, I saw, like you said, the grant numbers, which were about 5.5 million or 6 million, as I remember. And a good portion of that came from the state grant. And I realized like no one sort of has the answer, because even though things might be headed in the right direction, Lord knows what curves lie ahead in regard to the grants and the state financing. Is the state on the state health department grant? I know you can't speak on behalf of the city council. Is that money still available for them? And I realized even if it isn't, it looks like the thing still works. The deal still works anyway. But I was just curious.
Yeah, it's a great question.
It
It's a great question, Jerry. The contract is executed. So we have an executed grant contract. Before disbursement occurs for any grant, the CON has to be approved, and that includes, getting through the contingencies, of which is sort of the financing. And this is what, the CON had a modification. Originally, there was a different financing plan. Now they're going through the financing plan you have before you. So, we expect, there's no reason to believe that the grant funding for this project will not flow. It's a matter of getting through the steps to get to disbursement.
Okay. And if the city part doesn't come to fruition, the state part is not contingent on that, right? Sometimes you see these grant deals where one can continue upon the other deal. And in other words, if the 1.5 or the 1.4 doesn't come from the city, the RESOA money, doesn't impact the state grant, right?
Right. I mean, well, just to be clear, in any instance, we're looking at the full fundability of the project. So we in order to get through the grant contract, you have to make sure all funds are, to complete it, are there. But what this financing does is allow for, a vehicle through the 2020 B bonds to provide that financing for that component should the grant money not come in. And that's where, we looked at the worst case scenario of what the debt service associated with that would be and got comfortable. But we, through talking in our diligence, and DASNY team was involved, we believe that the Urban Health believes it'll have the funding agreement, in place with the city, at least the agreement signed. I believe Gerard can correct me, I think, prior to closing. That's the expectation. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and just another point or two, Jerry, to maybe help along a little bit. I'm not certain that you saw the cash flows, but the cash flows include about $7.1 million of equity, which they have, they're demonstrating that the DOH money has a matching concept to it. So they've demonstrated that they have made that match. So, that is favorable as well. Also, these are anticipated to be drawdown bonds. And, plan A would be that they are quite confident that the city is going to deliver this money. We, of course, took the most cautious approach and wanted to make sure and get the, the diligence or, the cash flows to understand exactly what would happen if that didn't come in. But at any rate, if plan A works out, then they may not have to draw down bonds or draw down proceeds, that these grant proceeds would come in, and then we use those grant proceeds to construct, as opposed to, drawing down the bonds. So, but we've proceeded most cautiously, and I think thoroughly scrubbed this with Tracy and her team, and that's where we are.
And I compliment you all. I get one more last question for you. There's no type of community opposition or issues or anything with the community regard. I'm assuming that to be the case that you're aware of.
The feeling that I got was the exact opposite, that they feel that this would be a piece of property or lot that would be otherwise wasted, and that it couldn't be used for a better purpose.
Right.
Good.
I'd echo that. Yeah. We have no community opposition.
Perfect. Okay, so if there's no further questions, I'm going to ask that we get a motion to recommend the approval of this at tomorrow's board meeting.
Yeah, so moved.
Thank you. None
Second.
opposed. Thank you. All in favor, aye. None opposed.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you. And Tracy, thank you very much, as always, because the certificate of need actually helped me very much get my hands around this aggressive but important transaction. So thank you very much, Tracy. And thank you very much to Gerard. So next up,
Chairman Romsky?
yes, Mr.
If
President.
I could, we have several people in the waiting room, including your colleague, Mr. Gardner. I would like to add them to this meeting, and we'll just let them know that we're carrying on, just so they're not sitting there waiting. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. And by the way, I should have actually, and I apologize to my my fellow board members who are not on the committee, if they had any questions or concerns about the transaction. Even though we sort of already approved it, I'm more than happy to let those questions get asked now, if not for tomorrow. Thank you. And again, I apologize for not doing that at the time when we were going through.
All right, so Kim is admitting the other members. Give them just a second. There's Mr. Gardner. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Good. We are still in the Finance Committee meeting. We should be another 10 to 15 minutes, but want to let you in so you weren't just sitting there quietly.
Okay.
And we'll start your meeting as soon as we finish this one.
I apologize to the chair. I apologize to the chair of audit for delaying his meeting. I'm very sorry, Mr. Chair. Next up is FIT. I sort of forget who was up on that one.
Matt.
Sorry, Matt. Take it away, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see everyone and hear everyone's voice. The Finance Committee is being asked to recommend to the full board an 18-year term for a bond issue in an amount not to exceed $39 million on behalf of the FIT Student Housing Corporation. The FIT Student Housing Corporation was created to develop and operate dormitories for FIT and was added to DASNY's statute in 1982. FIT's Board of Trustees also serves as the Board of Directors for the FIT Student Housing Corporation. The project that you're considering is the partial refunding and restructuring of DASNY's FIT Student Housing Corporation Insured Revenue Bonds Series 2007. We are currently discussing this partial refunding and restructuring of the Series 2007 bonds in the context of providing 3 years of debt service relief. This amounts to approximately $9.7 million of debt service relief annually. Current thoughts are that the debt service on the proposed refunding and restructuring bonds is anticipated to mature between the years 2035 and 2038, which is after the 2034 maturity of the 2007 bonds. Partial refunding and restructuring of the Series 2007 bonds does not provide aggregate savings on a net present value basis. It is anticipated the bond issue will be secured by a policy of municipal bond insurance. Bonds will be also secured by a mortgage and a pledge of the room rents of Kaufman Hall, which is a residential facility located at 406 West 31st Street. The FIT Student Housing Corporation will also continue to have an operating agreement with FIT, whereby payments of the debt service will be a general obligation of FIT to the extent of the non-payment of such amounts by the FIT Student Housing Corporation. In addition, it is anticipated that a debt service reserve fund will also be required. And just so summing this up and looking at the transaction summary, although we've requested the flexibility, we are anticipating this to be a fixed rate, taxable, bond insured transaction. And again, with the restructuring, it's looking to provide near-term debt service relief. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Matt. Questions, concerns? That's open to all, including non-finance committee members as well.
Yeah.
Mr.
Matt,
Chairman, I don't have any questions.
Tracy?
I had just one, Matt, and I may have just overlooked this. So are the bonds, are they currently callable? Or
Yes, but they're 2007 bonds.
Yep.
So, it would be a current refunding. We are doing these on a taxable basis because of what's happening with the anticipated maturity of the bonds. So the thought right now is a taxable refunding and restructuring, but that is the thought right now.
okay.
Thank you. Could somebody else have a comment? I had one, and maybe I'm just not understanding something. And I always call it the Sandra sheet, Matt, where Sandra would also see how the savings would be utilized. And I didn't see that sheet here. I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, with this restructuring, there's really no savings. What essentially they're doing, they're looking at the next 3 years of debt service, which equates to about 9.7 million annually, and taking that and putting it at the end. So in essence, the 2007 bonds mature in 2034. But again, they are going to put that, the refunding debt service after the 2034 maturity of the 2007 bond. It's a restructuring.
I got it. So it's sort of a COVID restructuring.
That's correct. And this is all done because of the low occupancy, because of the fact that, that people just are learning and going to FIT remotely.
Got it. Makes sense. And I'm sure they'll be back as soon as they possibly can, which hopefully will be sometime in the early part of 21.
And Jerry,
can only hope.
It's similar to the SUNY dorms restructuring that we did in the summer.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
And can I just ask one follow-up to that? Is there any, did they give us any plans of what they would do with that liquidity, or is it just to have that liquidity to weather, through this period? Yeah.
It's really to have the liquidity to weather through this storm.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else? I see Mr. Gardner's. Good. Okay. So hearing no other questions, can I please get a motion to recommend approval of this offering at tomorrow's board meeting?
So moved.
Thank you very much. Well, actually, you can't do that, Wellington.
I'm not a finance committee member.
But we'd love to have you.
So moved. So moved, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, so moved on Wellington's behalf.
Thank you. Thank you.
And second.
Thank you very much. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
None opposed. That motion carries. And thank you all very, very much. I think, Portia, because I don't have my typical, you gave it to me, but I don't have it. Do I have anything else? I look for Portia for my guidance. Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you all. And I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow on Zoom. And I think I have to now request a motion to adjourn so they can get into audit. And I'm sorry again to the audit chair for delay. Thank you. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. And so finance is now over. Do you stay on?
We've just shut down.
Right?